Well, welcome back to It's an Inside Job podcast. I'm your host, Jason Lim. Now, this podcast is dedicated to helping you to help yourself and others to become more mentally and emotionally resilient so you can be better at bouncing back from life's inevitable setbacks. Now, on It's an Inside Job, we decode the science and stories of resilience into practical advice, skills, and strategies that you can use to impact your life and those around you. Now, with that said, let's slip into the stream. Well, welcome back to the show. This week, we're continuing our discussion with Mikael Ali to hear his story. And this is part 2. Now, I would highly suggest before you start part 2, if you haven't had a chance yet, go back to the previous episode and have a listen, because it will put the entire story of Mikael's life into context. Mikael Ali is a former member of the infamous Young Guns gang, and he has dedicated his life to working with the church's city mission to help young people steer clear of criminal activities. With Mikael's previous experience in the gang world and the life of criminality, he provides a unique perspective on why young people are drawn into a life of crime. After over a decade away from the gang life, he has now turned his focus to preventing others from following in his footsteps. The tragic loss of his friend and former leader of Young Guns gang, Mohammed Javeed, in 2009 also further solidified his commitment to helping those at risk. So in this episode, as with the last, Mikael wants to share his journey and the challenges he faced in his mission to make a difference. And again, as I did in the first episode, please be advised that this interview is raw and unfiltered, where there is descriptive conversation about drug and alcohol use, violence, and suicide. So if there are young kids around, I highly suggest listening to this episode at another time. Make sure those young ears are not in the room. Well, anyways, folks, let's slip into the stream into part 2 of my interview with Mikael Ali.
That was the mentality. So what happened also was some of the guys who bullied me when I was younger, because I was now spending so much time in discotheques, partying, shit like that. Not for dancing and shit. I was just out drinking, and I had the size, I had the rumor. I was fighting a lot because I had done some martial arts also from the background. If you even looked at me the wrong way, because I was seeking eye contact also to try to provoke somebody. Okay, let's fight. I want to fight. So I was like a ticking bomb outside. But I met one of the guys who was bullying me when I was younger in that kind of in that phase of my life. So I see him and I go to him outside the discotheque. And he's a grown-up man now, you know, and I don't know nothing about his background, what has happened to his life. But I remember that's the fucking bully. So I go to him and I stand in front of him, and I'm a big fucking guy, and I stand in front of him. And I say, "You remember me?" And he said, yeah. He was always like humble because I think I could not see how I was from to other people in that kind of shape. So my body language was probably really crazy. But I went to him and I said to him, "So you remember you called me Paki and you was bullying me all those years?" He said, "Yeah." And he was trying to apologize. But I don't know, I have this narcissistic mindset. I was also like playing with this guy, you know? So I was waiting for him to like, so what I did was I was humiliating him, really, in psychologically. Finally, I took him and I was hitting him. I was like, not really beating him, but just
slapping him around. Yeah,
in front of a lot of people, you know? And I told him, "You're not so tough now." And I made him go down on his knees, crawling. And I must be honest with you, at that time, I felt fucking enjoy about it, you know? It was like a craziness in my, that like, how more he got humiliated,
the more he was humiliated, the more you fed off it.
Yeah. So that feeling was crazy. And so I was like seeking fights and trouble. And that's how, at that time, from one of the guys I met in my childhood who went the other way, the more wrong way, when I went to the Pizza Hut in the army, this guy had went to the criminal way in a young age. He went, so I met him at the same time at that point.
So what year is this roughly? Just to give some context.
The problem is these times of years, they're almost blank for me.
So was it, okay, generality, was it sort of early 2000s?
Yeah, this will be like in 2005, 6.
Okay,
maybe.
That's okay. Just to put a timestamp.
Yeah. I've been working a lot with psychologist, and when we've been working together, one of the main things we have been trying to do is also put a timeline. What happened when, and how old were you? So I didn't have different. We had to find different references to how old maybe I was, because I didn't remember.
It was just like a blur.
Yeah, it was a blur.
Chapter
Everything
in your life, right?
Correct,
and so, what age were you? Kind of mid-20s, early 20s?
Yeah, this is now we are talking about. Now I'm 25.
Okay.
Yeah, around there. Yeah. So what happened? I meet this former old friend of mine, and he is in the gangs in Oslo. He's really in there, connected. But I have also this connection to the Albanians in Sweden from the family side, from my girlfriend, and I have the experience with weapons and things like that. And I was on this destructive path. So when I meet him, I was kind of this lone wolf, crazy wolf, going around fighting people, getting this reputation, and Norway is a small place, and especially where I would grow up in Asker, it was a smaller place, so everybody know everybody. So the rumor went, so I started hanging out more with him, and he introduced me for his friends in Oslo. Yeah, so that's how it built up. So he was part of this gang in Oslo, and it was natural for me also, like to go with that gang. Yeah, so that was the start of the gang period. So it was very tough, because it was in some respect, in some point, before I really lost myself, really. I had this epiphany, this clear moment where my inner voice just told me one time, I remember it really clearly. It told me, like, Mikael, you're starting to lose yourself now. If you continue on this path, it was like somebody inside me was telling me, you're scaring me. I'm going to go away. It was like the same person in me. It was like the reasonable voice, the reasonable person inside me was telling me, if you go on doing this crazy more things, this destructive path, I'm
going offline.
Yeah, I'm going offline. And that's what it felt like at that especially moment. I remember it very clearly. It was like I have to take a choice here and now, because inside me telling me if I go further on with the criminals, with the violence, I'm going to lose a part of me. He's going to disappear. This guy who is the reasonable voice, inner voice. I don't know how to explain it, but does it make sense? Yeah.
Yes, because just to put some context on this, because what it is at some point we come to these crossroads. There's all this noise that is us in the present, and sometimes there's this little signal beep. Beep, but we have to be very conscious of hearing that signal, because there's all the other noise, and it's parsing the signal, Mikael, from that noise. But if we listen to it, and then it resonates a little louder and a little louder, and then we become cognizant or conscious that we are standing at a crossroads, and at this point, we need to make a choice. And so you are at this point where you've picked up the signal from the background noise. You're standing on the crossroads, and what happens?
Yeah, what happens was I override it. I told him to fuck himself,
Yeah, you crushed the signal.
Yeah, I crossed it. It was like I felt like hurt. It was almost betraying myself in a kind of way, but I didn't care, because the anger, the fucking other noise was so loud. So I was so fucking angry. I was so revenge. I was so angry at the world. So I just went. I was almost like talking to this inner voice, like, so where the fuck have you been all the time? Like,
yeah. You showing up now?
Yeah, you're showing up now. You have the balls to come now.
Yeah.
So yeah, where were you when I needed you? It was almost like this inner fucking conflict with the.
The fury just consumes. It just hollows you out, right?
Correct. Yeah, and that was so. yeah, I override it. I just went even further. So what happened in all this is documentary, because I've been a lot of media and done some interviews later, and different reporters have checked the story, timelines, but it was tough. Also, the talking about it today is also like I handle it, but it is like going visiting, different memories line, and so it was like it just went further in this gang. There were conflicts with other gangs, and having me in this gang was like I was not the smartest guy with the money. I didn't give a shit about the money. So money could be a fuel, a drive for other people, but for me, I didn't care. Money was to party with, to buy drugs, to use coke. At this point, I was living at home with my mother and father also, because I could not leave. I couldn't function normally, paying bills, doing normal things, because they were very worried about me also, because I didn't give a shit. Because my father and mother, because this is another perspective about this life, because one thing is me, but it's the people you hurt around you. That is insanely, because and I don't think maybe that is talked about so much, because I can retrospect about it now, but when I was in this bubble, I didn't care. I cared, but I didn't want to listen or acknowledge what I was doing to them.
And I'd like just to talk about that, because we don't have to dive too much, but I think it's just that, when you see someone in this sort of oblivion mindset, where it's just a sort of a destructive projection, what they leave behind them is the carnage. Is the collateral damage that it does to their siblings, to their parents, to their friends, their families, their whatever. But I think that's a very astute point you've made.
Yeah. All my friends, the former friends I had, who was in the forces with, who was studying with me in school, who I had a relation with, who I grown up with, all of those were afraid of me. I understand it to this day. I can go back and see how I forced them away from me, because I feel the same way today when people contact me, and I still have friends in the gangs in different environments, and I care about them, but I have made my choice. I cannot be with them, because my values are not the same. And when I'm with, I also have 2 children I have to take care of now. So I cannot put myself or put them in danger of being with people who are in conflicts with other tough environments. That is a choice I actually had to make. Just to jump a little further on, so I can see the resemblance from why my friends at that point choose to leave me, but I left them. I was crazy. I give a fuck. I was committed to the other people who were violent. We fed of each other, of the violence. We were like in this own bubble, of our
it's
own
like a
society.
black hole, right? You just suck in everything. Then everyone who wants to avoid that event horizon moves away from the black hole. As you said, people don't want to be associated because of the danger, because of what have you. So the trailhead of this little bit of the conversation is that little voice came up, but you squashed it. You smothered that signal, and you continued the projection.
Yeah. And the thing worth mention in this story is also like when I rejected that voice, my the part of me, at some point when the drugs went out of the system and you were just trying to relax and recover from partying so much, because the body, you cannot party, you have to have some time to sleep also in this play. And so you can take so much drugs you want, but sometimes the body will turn off. It has to. And when it did, I went home and I slept for fucking days. I went into depression. I didn't want to get out of bed. I just stayed in bed. Getting up to piss, to even go to the toilet, was like a battle. I didn't want to do that either. I didn't want to brush my teeth. I didn't want to eat something. Or if I was eating, I was like because the body just craved something. So it was a real depression, And I felt, but in that depression, I felt this clarity moment also. Then the voice also was a little bit there. It was a turning point. I hadn't pushed it away quite. But it told me like, okay, Michael, so if this is life you want to live, what does your girlfriend think about this situation you are in now? I was like thinking about all this, and I was thinking I miss her, and I was very visualized person. So I started visualizing her in a white dress with my kid, with our baby in our arms, and I was thinking so much about her, and I thought, fuck, I want to go there. If there is a God, if there is an alternative, if there is an afterlife, I'll go there, and because I cannot. This path I'm on now is so destructive, not only for me, but I'm hurting people. I'm really damaging people, people who are close to me, but also other people in the gangs, other people who have a beef with us, torturing people. It was fucking horrible. So I thought this have to stop now. Okay, so what I did, I had a gun at that point also. So I'm home in my parents' home, and I'm staying in the boys' room. You know, my little. It was like I'm fucking 25 years old living in the kids' room. Yeah. But that is what it was. You know, yeah, gang member and shit like that. So what I did, I take out the gun, and I take a grip, and I put the gun in my mouth. And I remember the taste of the gunpowder, because I have not cleaned it. I used it before, but I have not cleaned it, you know. So I put it in my mouth. And not funny thing, that's maybe wrong to say, but I reflected earlier on about people who take their own life. But I could not understand why people would kill themselves, you know. But at that point, I felt for myself, I found the answer. Because I was fucking looking forward to killing myself. I was happy. I was really, I'm getting like goosebumps now, because I was like, yeah, I'm leaving. Finally, this have to stop. Where I'm living, I don't know. I don't give a fuck, but I hope it's to my girlfriend and my kid, you know? So I put the gun in my mouth and I pull the trigger, but it jams, this fucking gun.
So you were literally about to eat a bullet, but it jammed.
I was eating the bullet, and the circumstances of that. Listen, when you look neutral at this, I was sitting in my parents' home, and I didn't think about how they would react when they heard a gunshot go off and they found their son blasted his head off. You know, I didn't care, but I thought was, well, they will find my body in the house, so maybe that was the relief. I was thinking about them. Instead of going in the woods and shooting me, maybe not finding me, you know, shit, I will probably be found there after a couple of years in the worst case. But it was crazy mentality. But for me, it was I don't know if this is the point how other people maybe have tried to kill themselves or have felt. But for me, I was looking forward to it. I was really happy, man. I was really like, fuck, I'm coming home. And I pulled the trigger and it jammed. And I took out the bullets, the magazine. I take one bullet off and I put it back in. Take another grip. I put it back in my mouth. And then what fate will have it, you know, it knocks on the door. And it's my mother telling me it's dinner is ready upstairs.
That is surreal. You're about to cap yourself, and knocks on the door asking you, come down, dinner. Wow. Yeah. Wow, talk about contrast. Bloody hell.
It's crazy, you know. So
that is some serious contrast.
Yeah, that is contrast.
What did that contrast do to you at that point in time?
Well, for me, in that point of time, in that situation, you know, what I did was I just put the gun away, and I just went, yeah, fuck, I go eat, and I go eat the dinner. I remember the dinner. It was like potatoes and lamb chops. It was this sauce. So I was sitting eating, but at the same time, I had made an appointment with my friend in the gang who will come and pick me up, and we were going to party. So I was also thinking, yeah, fuck, I can wait killing myself. That is no problem. I just wait. I do it later. So I go up, eat the dinner, and I go party. And I didn't try to kill myself later.
Okay.
Or I tried to kill myself in different other ways, you know, like not like a real try for myself with the gun again, but in the way I was acting outside.
Yeah, like reckless.
Yeah,
you know,
correct.
Because I've come across, you know, like as I said, in inner city Chicago, and a lot of the times there's, you know, suicide by cop, where they'll do something where the cops will shoot them down, right? Yeah. But it's just reckless behavior, so they don't do it. It's something else that does it.
Yeah, correct. And that was the mentality. And at that point, that made me seriously dangerous in this environment, and not for myself, but for other people in the community, the society, because I didn't care, So even though I was prepared to die and even wanted to die, I could get away with things because I was willing to do it in this mindset. For example, not to go so far into it, but I was also committed, prosecuted for shooting two people. But I was acquitted in 2 rounds about this shooting those 2 people from this other gang. My mentality was, if you were an enemy of me or my gang, and you were working in a fucking shopping center, I didn't care. If we knew we were working there, I would go inside there and just fucking shoot you down. That's how it wasn't about. It was almost like I wanted to be somebody to caught me also.
Yeah, to someone to stop you, right? Through the reckless behavior, someone actually stop you because you can't stop yourself. Was there a little voice in you saying, "I need someone has to stop me"? Is that what you're? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
And at some points, I also I even told when I was in this different situation, angry and fighting with people, especially when there was a conflict at home. When I come home and I was all fucking bloody and shit, been fighting. And my parents were just, what is wrong with you? What has happened to you? And they were really concerned. I'm coming home with the bleeding with the head. I've been fighting. And I told them, and instead of getting in conflict with them, I had so much anger and rage. I must honestly say I had no control. It could possibly go to that conflict. I would also hurt them physically. So I had to stop myself. So I told them, you have to call the police. And they called the police because I was fucking full of blood and everything. And the police come, and I went to the car, and the police take me away, and clothes were taken off, blood test, shit, everything. Who's this blood? I didn't say nothing, I just wanted to be in this fucking cell, just lay down and just. I need the space. And the doctor come to talk to me like, are you crazy? They tried, but I was like, I kept I wasn't like hallucinating and psychotic in that way. But it was like I was dangerous for myself because I didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, because I think when you're about to eat a bullet and it didn't go off, at that point psychologically you'd already left the farm there, right? You've already left the range, so all limits melted away with that. Yeah. And again, I speak in generalities here, but all limits and fueled by everything else you've told us so far, you can see the mindset you were on. As you said, you could have gone into a shopping mall full of people, but if you had the gun after someone, for example, you would have done it blatantly in daylight. Is that I understand? Yeah. And that communicates to me a man who's already accepted his fate, and that he's already embraced it, and that he has nothing to lose. Yeah, is that what I understand?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that was the mentality, So that was the craziness. So this kept on for many years, how I fucking survived in this game. It was crazy, but it was many moments I should have been dead, should have. And I sat 13 months in custody, and I was out in of jail, But when the turning point come in this story, it's like. So one of my best friends in this environment, also in this gang, he was because this environment, this is like you believe in the brotherhood, you believe in something. I can only speak for myself, I was really those persons in this, those human beings in this gang, I really cared about them. I saw them as my brothers, because not all, but some of them who were very close. I felt some of them would die for me, and I would do the same for them. Some of those other guys, they had the same mentality. Maybe not so fucking destructible as me. But, So, but one of my closest friends, he was lured in a trap here in Norway, and he was shot in the head and burned in a car after. And that really impacted me also, because after his killing, we went home to his family, and I saw how they reacted, and I felt really bad. It was the reaction to seeing how we were hurting our family, also our closest, and it was just an evil spiral of revenge, because they shoot at us, we go shoot at them. Fuck, it was never ending fucking story. It was like this all the time. and the police were always after us, and you get a little paranoid. You have to watch your phone. I felt after like 10 years in this game, I felt like really tired, but I could not stop myself. I didn't have a why. I didn't have a reason, because I was on this path. So what happens is this girlfriend I'm with at that time, she get pregnant. And I learned that I have a son coming into this world. And that was one of the game changers. It was not the game changer, but that was one of that, okay, now I have a son coming. And at the same time, I have experienced more the environment as also being false. Like we were brothers, but we are starting to fucking put ourselves, we're starting to trap each other. We're starting to stab each other in the back, metaphorically speaking, because of money, because
betrayal.
Because betrayal, because of different situations, and the fucking paranoia about the drug use and the cash flow, what's coming in from, we were cooperating with different countries, and the whole picture, I was getting real fed up of this shit. I was like, what the fuck is this, listen? This is not good.
In the last part of the conversation, Mikael and I talked about the signal and the noise. The noise was the destructive lifestyle and path that it was on. The signal is what he called his reasonable voice that was inside of himself. He said that he heard the voice saying, Mikael, you're starting to lose yourself. If you continue on this path, I'm going to go away. And at that point, he was at a crossroads. And that signal, well, he buried it. It smothered. It became part of the background noise that was his life. And he decided to take that low road, to continue down the destructive path that left in its wake carnage and collateral damage, not just for only him, but everyone around him. And as Mikael said, maybe that voice would have stuck around if he had a why to leave the life, a why to leave the game. But that why actually did come at some point, but it was a wake-up call. And like most of us sometimes, we don't pay attention to the smaller signals, and it takes one big signal to really grab our attention, to shake us up. And for Mikael, well, that was at the wake of his friend who got killed in the game. And when he looked around at the faces of the friends and the family of those left behind, he saw fear, he saw grief, he saw despair. And that was the incident that reawakened, that rekindled that question that his reasonable self has asked all along the road. What the hell are you doing?
It was starting to get really like, this is an illusion. I am destroying my brothers and they are destroying me.
And so it revealed what it was. Trust wasn't there. The respect wasn't there. Totally.
Especially when your friends, it was a turning point also when a situation happened, because when I have these interviews, when I talk to a podcast, when I go in the media and talk, I'm very reflection, and I'm very aware of. I'm talking only about myself. I don't know if you call it respect, but I respect in a kind of way the guys that are still in the game. I left, but they choose to stay. So I don't want to say anything to like get them in harm's way. I want those guys to come out also from this life. I want them well. So it's a lot of things I don't choose to speak about, but I can speak about in a different ways.
I respect that.
Yeah. When it comes to me, because I'm very clear on that, because they have to choose themselves to leave, and if they leave, I will be supportive, but they have to like do it themselves, like I did.
So you were at your the close friend's funeral. He got shot in the head, thrown in a car, and then
he was shot in the car and he was burned later on in the car. Yeah.
And then you at the wake, at the eulogy, you saw how the carnage and the collateral damage that was left to the family. And was this part of that wake up call? Like when you got news that your you have a boy coming to the world? Was that part of this?
It was like some people have maybe a specific turning point in their life. I didn't feel that I have just one. I had different
Signals?
different signals. Yeah, correct. Different signals I experienced, and the total package of those signals were like, what the fuck am I doing? What is this? And the what probably saved me the most was the disappointment of some of my brothers when I realized, but this is fucking fake. Listen, some of these guys were very high top level criminals, big guys, and doing good money and shit like that. But it was like I expected like loyalty, that we keep each other back. But when they started to get more, how can I explain it? Like more self-interested in their own cause, in themselves, that made me more sick about it. I mean, okay, listen, brother, we are brothers. Well, you call me brother, so why are you like? When they're starting to why don't you, I saw how they treated each other and other brothers. Like, okay, you should probably take the fault for that one and this case. And it was like, why the fuck should he take the fault? Why don't you? You understand? It was because they were just thinking about themselves, and that was not the brotherhood I wanted. I wanted to be one fucking fist. We die for each other. We go in all with each other. If you have to take the jail time, you take the fucking jail time. You don't ask a brother to take it for you. You understand? It was that kind of different mentality I was experienced also, and that hurt me. I experienced that in a high level of betrayal, and that hurt me really bad.
And so the betrayal became something that really knocked you sideways. It revealed the illusion of what
Correct.
you thought the gang life or gang affiliation meant.
Yeah. And it was disappointing. It was hurting at that time, but that was probably one of the things that saved me, that I saw that. So now I'm grateful that I experienced that, because if I didn't experience that, maybe I'd still be fucking in it or dead. But at the same time, I experienced that betrayal because we were talking long jail sentences here in different cases that were ongoing as the investigation. So at the same time, it was I had a son on the way, and my friend just got murdered, and we were talking about taking revenge for different brothers who were killed. And I saw some brothers not step up to the plate to call it that. And I was like, okay, so you're not gonna, okay. So it was different things, and then I felt, okay, this shit, I don't want to be a part of it anymore if it's going to be like that. But my son was in my some kind of the why big escape, because I was thinking this is my way out. I don't give a fuck about myself, but I have a kid coming. I don't know how to be a father. But I was imagining the son or I don't know, it was a son or daughter, but the kid I lost, So I was thinking maybe this is the second chance. I was thinking that way also. So I wanted to be something else. I wanted to try to be there just for that kid in some way.
Contribution.
Yeah, contribution or something like that.
The belonging.
Yeah. To give that child, because the story is, if you see the timeline here, like I told you in Kosovo, I was always like, for the kids, I was always like, that made my heart feel good and warm. Yeah, so I was related to that going back to that. And now I have one of those kids coming to this world. But who the fuck I am? Who am I? I'm this violent criminal gang member who. So that was one of the. I must honestly say to you, I did not believe that I will manage to survive so long, or maybe see my kid get born. But I thought to myself, I will give it a shot. I will try to do something different. So then I started, like, I was acquitted from 12 years of prison, 2 times. Yeah, you can call it luck, whatever, and manipulation, different things also. Now I thought, okay, my son is getting close to getting born. So what do I do? How do I leave this gang life? How do I just quit? So I started on Google, I Google like former gang members, but what it comes up there in the Google is like Crips and Bloods in the States.
Yeah, in the States, yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I had no holding point here in Norway.
There's no reference point here in Oslo, in Norway. Yeah. And so everything that you researched was stateside. It was from the States.
It was states related, Of course, I can relate to some of those things, but it was not so close to me. How it was nobody. I could not pick up the phone and just call. Okay, hey brother, how did you get out of the gang? How did you? So I just had to create my own path. So I started going to the doctor and telling him not the whole story, but I told him a little bit that I have drug problems. I fucking use cocaine to just escape sometimes. And we decided to take piss tests, urine tests 2 times a week when somebody's watching. Me pissed in a cup. So that was one point. But I had this anger. And at that time, I didn't know that the anger problem was so greatly serious that it was. I thought I could, because you think one thought, I'm going to quit. But then it's the action to do it, So from thought to action is 2 different worlds.
Well said. Yeah. Well said.
So I had to do something about it because I was thinking a long time about quitting. But finally I did. I go to the doctor, and I also heard about something called Alternative to Violence. It's an organization they're psychologists who work with people who have anger management problems.
Yes.
Yeah. So I went to the office there. And I met this incredible woman that has really helped me all these years, and it's a different story how she worked with me, because she what I haven't told you from before is when I started also this before I started in the gang environment. I was fighting a lot, My girlfriend was dead, and I tried to get help. Also, at that one point, I went like local psychology in the community, and I told them about, listen, I have some problems. I need help. But I met 2 older women, 2 psychologists. I don't know why there were 2, but I met 2 of them, and I told them about what I thought was a minor violence incident. I held a lot back. So I told about one fight. And they said, okay, you come to us next week and we will talk more and stuff like that. So I thought, okay, this will help. But I was still partying. I was still just keeping on, So what happened, I didn't go. I missed one appointment. And they called me on the phone and they say, Michael, you should be here on this appointment now. And I said, okay. And I thought to myself, honesty is good, I have to tell them the truth. So I told them, like, I've been partying yesterday. I'm too sick to come today, but I will come next week. And they just hang up the phone. And I just went, okay, yeah, fuck it. Okay. Is that the case? No problem. Maybe 1 hour later, there's a knock on my door. And there are police officers. One of the police officers who are knocking on my door, this guy, he's taking extra work in this hospital I work, the psychiatry hospital. He's taking night shifts there also, beside the police work. So I know this guy. Yeah. So I was fucking so embarrassed. He was standing there with a colleague, and he was like, hi, Michael. And I say, hi, what you doing here? But yeah, you understand, we have to we get a call from these 2 women, psychologists, and they told us to bring you in for an appointment. And I just wait a minute. They send the police to come and get me? And I just went, fuck. So I say, I don't want to go now. I'm sick. And then they say, no, you have to come, Michael. But please, because listen, I'm a big guy in the size that I'm full of fucking anabolic steroids and shit like that. And I'm standing there and I see to the policeman, they're like, I mean, it's almost like they're saying to themselves, I hope he doesn't fucking go berserk. Because their body language is like, and I almost...
I can understand those poor 2 police officers sitting there. Some guy's all jacked up and juiced up.
Yeah.
He's a wreck after a night.
In just the boxer shorts, like fucking crazy. They take me, I have to come with them to the appointment. Yeah, and the 2 ladies say, okay, you didn't show, and we have decided now to hospitalize you. So what the fuck happened was they committed me to psychiatry hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went. And I say to the police guy who I know, who is my colleague. Yeah. And I said to him, "Are you fucking kidding me? What? But what is happening? But I'm not coming." And he said, "Please, Michael, you have to come. We have to drive you to this hospital. You have to. They're gonna like observe you." I just went for help. And now you're gonna fucking commit me? Well, for one fight I told about that I felt was like not so serious, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was committed in this hospital 1.5 weeks before the doctors like say to me, "Listen, we don't find anything observed. We observed you a little bit now. We cannot find anything wrong with you." And I said, "Yeah, I only went there for help because I had some anger management issues, not because I'm psychotic." And so I felt like that was a betrayal from the system. And what that did to me was I didn't ask for help anymore. So when I was signed out for the hospital, I just, okay, fuck it. I'm not going to go for help anymore. They're going to commit me to hospital. So the reference here is to the psychology. And now, I don't know, 12, 13 years later, I'm going to voluntarily. And so the difference is I tell her, I'm very careful, you know, I'm very scared because I remember last time.
You're cautious.
Yeah. So I tell her my story. She has a different approach. She has a different experience also as a psychologist. She can handle the tough stories, you know, as long she tells me there's 2 rules or 1 rule. If you're going to kill somebody, I have to, or hurt somebody, I have to report this. This is out of the question. And I say, oh, that's a fair deal. Okay.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I understand. But she don't give me any
diagnosis.
Yeah. She
didn't label you.
Yeah, she didn't label me. Me and her, we used 2 to 3 years just on relation, just building that relation. And we just talk about how my week has been, how is my day today. We don't jump into any trauma. We don't start working with that shit because I was not ready for. If we started working with trauma, I would probably don't manage it, and I would go
shut down.
Yeah. I've talked to her later, many years when the therapy was almost over. You know how she worked, and she explained to me, "Yeah, this is how I work with you," because I consciously didn't want to give you any diagnosis. We had to get this relationship first. You had to trust me, and that was the right way to do it for me, you know, with my background. I was really damaged by relationships from before. She gained my trust so I could tell her more and more, but not everything, you know. But I will also speak in metaphorical ways.
Yeah.
About situations that wasn't it was similar to things I've experienced, but not saying it because if the police come and ask her to, you know.
Yeah, then it can be used.
So I had to be like conscious of that also. But she really helped me, you know.
So what year are we looking at? Are we at 2015, 2016 at this point?
This is now in. I was acquitted in 2009. This is now 2011, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, you have your son. I guess your son was born at this point.
Yeah, he was born in 2009.
2009. So he's at 2 years old. You finished therapy. And
I'm still going in therapy in 2000 because I my son was born in 2009. I left the gang a little bit officially before he was born, but I still went a little bit forward and then back and then forward. It was like because I tried to stay away, but it was fucking. I didn't have any other environment. I was alone, and it was sometimes so fucking tough. I felt like, listen, I cannot stand this. So I had a foot a little bit inside and a little bit outside, and I went forward and back a little bit, couple of years, you know.
Yeah, you had one foot in each world.
Yeah, correct. And that is not. You cannot live like this, you know. So finally, I broke out for real.
And what took? I mean, what was the elements that made you get off the fence and jump on one side?
what really did it was a turning point in an episode that I remember. My kid is around 2 years old. Is maybe 1.5 years old, and and one of the guys in the environment in the gang, he calls me in the weekend when I have my son, and he's I can hear it in his voice. He's on some drugs, and he has this tone in his voice about a conflict that is going on. I cannot say so much about it, but it was conflict. Yeah, and he's kind of fucking rude against me. He's kind of like disrespectful because he knows I'm about to leave. I've tried many times, to just leave, but then I say hello again, for the back. But I can sense real tough in the phone. He will never dare to say this to me when I was in the gang for 100% real, and he would never dare to say it in front of me. But he's tough because he's high, and I have my kid on my lap, and he's like being rude in the phone. And my first thought is like, I'm gonna find you, motherfucker. I'm gonna kill you. This automatically this comes in my head, and what I do is I put my son down from me, and my girlfriend at the time, she's with my son. I go downstairs to continue the conversation because I don't want to have this conversation in front of my son, in front of my girlfriend. So I go downstairs to continue this conversation. But as I do, I'm already a little bit in therapy and still working with myself. And that is a turning point because as I'm in the old, I go straight back in this old pattern that I'm threatening people, and I'm starting to almost threaten him in the phone. I'm going to find you. But what happens is the door opens downstairs, and a little boy comes crawling inside. That's my son. And that's the fucking reminder of what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing? And that's then and there and then I think about I have two choices now. Either, and I hang up the phone. And I take my son in the lap and I go upstairs. But I'm thinking all the time. So this is my son was a reminder of why I've chosen also to leave. So if I go and take this guy down, I will probably go to jail. I won't see my son for a couple of years. So that was a reminder. Okay, now you have to take a choice. You have to. It was a reminder of why I'm doing this. Why I went out and why this shitty environment are calling me, So that was like a little turning point. But also like another turning point was also like in the sense of the violence I was in. It was like I'm holding my son who was a little child, he was much younger then. So it's almost a little baby infant, and they have like their head is moving forward to the left and right and front. Yeah.
The bobblehead.
Bobblehead. Yeah. So I'm holding my son in front of me, and his head hits my nose. And immediate reaction in my head is, I feel like I had to like head him back. You understand? Yeah. But I don't, of course. I stopped from thought to action. I stop it. That's because I've been to therapy and and I'm off the drugs, I'm off the juice, everything. But but even that thought of me, the first immediate thought was to like hit him back. A little fucking infant, a little child. That was scary for me. So what happened? I take him and put him next to my shoulder, and I hold him very tight, and just to cuddle him, and I cry for myself,
Yeah.
Because I realized how fucking damaged I am. Almost wanted to hitting child, infant, a little baby. So and that was a scary point. I realized you have to go back you have to keep working in therapy because this is not good. So it is different on points that made me like, okay, this is not good.
Yeah. But I mean, that was your wake up call.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shows you how the brain is on habitual things, and it just takes a little thing to trigger it. But what the therapy does, what the self reflection is done, the resilience, because that takes a lot of resilience to be able to stop yourself between thought and action. Yeah. Right? Because a man is not judged by his thoughts. A man is judged by his actions, or not just men, but human beings, right? And so there is a turning point for me in this story arc, where the action that you didn't take, well, that is an action in itself. That starts to redefine Mikael moving forwards, at least from my perspective, as I understand it.
Yeah, correct. And also the incident when this former gang member was threatening me. The point of that story was that I had to make a choice if somebody calls and threatens me like that, or if I choose the path to what
revenge or
the
get
normal
back
life.
or
Yeah,
strike
yeah,
back.
yeah. To the life as a father, as a citizen, in the normal life, not like the life I've lived. And then it's the police job to take care of these threats, you know. And listen, I never called the police on anybody, you know. Listen, I was doing the shit to myself. I was handling things by myself, you know. And so I realized if this continues, if people were going to call me like this and be, because some of them are mad about me leaving the gang also, you know. They didn't like it. And especially in the weekends, they were getting high and they would maybe call and being tough on the phone. It's some of them, not all of them, because I had good connections with the other leaders, you know, and they were like, we respect you living, but when you leave, you leave. You're out.
You're gone.
You're gone. Don't come back, brother. Don't fucking go back and forward as you have done. You know, it was a clear message, especially from one person. He told me this, and he said, "Listen, I love you. You've done a lot from this gang. Because I had nothing bad standing in this gang.
No. You were solid.
Money. Yeah, I was solid, man. I left with my head high and a good reputation, and if you can call it that, in this gang. So that probably also gave me an opportunity to go out more smoothly, you know."
In the final chapter of my hard-hitting conversation with Mikael, we reach up to where he is today. He speaks to the consequences of leading such a gang-affiliated, crime-infested life. Although his past is staying in the past, the consequences of his past actions still resonate today. And that comes with the jail time he's had, about the fines he's still paying off, how his credit rating is just taking a huge hit, and how it's affected his health, both physically and mentally. But Mikael doesn't take the victim mentality that it was society that put him there. He takes full 100% responsibilities for where he is in life and what has happened, and he takes full accountability for his actions. But also in this final part, we talk about how therapy, how one particular psychologist brought him back onto that normal road that many of us walk on. That where she did not diagnose him or label him with any sort of illness or anything, but sat down with a guy like a human being, regardless of his past, and allowed him to express his thoughts and emotions, to work through them. Although it took time, he worked through it. He learned a lot about himself. And through that self-reflection, he took the road to become a better man, to become a better version of himself. And now he's dedicated his life and his career to helping kids to get off that road that he was on and to find their why to get out of the game, or to prevent even from getting into the game. And though his life is not easy, he wakes up every morning and is thankful for where his life is and that he did not continue down that destructive trail. And so in this last chapter of our conversation, it's a chapter of redemption for the guy, for Mikael. And I think it can be a message for us all, regardless of where we are in life. We can turn things around. Although not easy, we can turn it around. We can face adversity. We can build a better version of ourselves, and we can become more resilient. At this point, you decided, I have to choose a side, and you chose the side of being a father, of coming back to society. You didn't want to break bad anymore, I guess would be the point.
So yeah, because it's a lot, you know, because I did not realize, honestly, the work it would take, how much damage I really was, and am, in one perspective, still am. Difficult, some things I work with to this day, because living that life, in general, if you look across borders, you know, everywhere, if you have this, let's see the experience of a child, experience the things I did. and similar other places in the world, in the same situations, the same environments, different countries. I think many can relate in different. I can certainly relate with others when I hear their stories from another country or something. Yeah, but of course, the culture is different sometimes, and they have another perspective into it. But there are many things that are the same, I feel. Do you think so also? Or
Yeah. There are definitely common denominators with a lot of things, but a lot of this stuff is not like a light switch. It's on off. It's a dimmer switch that slowly, if you can call it the fury, the rage, slowly becomes stronger and stronger over time. And some people can pull back because all of a sudden, at some point, when you were back from Kosovo, life was going as you wanted, but then it got derailed. And so someone put their hands on the dimmer switch again and started turning it up and turning it up. And at some point, there's a point where the light just kindles and it goes on, right? Now, what it took is, your child, your boy is almost your redemption per se, in that it's like someone almost cut the electricity to that dimmer switch, and the fury, it didn't just wink out, but it's slow, maybe it was starved of oxygen. Is that, I don't know if that's too metaphorical.
Yeah. I can relate to that. Absolutely. Good perspective, for sure. And what I tell people also now when I have because I have a lot of, what do you call it, foredrag? You have
lectures and keynote talks.
Yeah, because sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't do it, because it's I've been more selective to who and when I do it. It depends on my shape, Sometimes I don't have the energy to do it, and sometimes I've done it only because of the money. I'll be honest, because it's and I feel like shit after, because I feel sometimes good, because when I do it, I tell the story and I get a lot of feedback. But myself in person, I feel like I'm empty. I'm fucking exhausted.
Hollow.
Hollow, because it takes so much energy and sometimes you have a perspective. You have so limited time to explain this, the speech, to tell the story. So we don't get the little details with it that are important. I also feel like, because leaving this life, it has its consequences to this day, in perspective of the economy also. Like because when you get convicted, you also get jail sentence many times, but you also get fined, and the money goes with interest every year, and you still have to live your life. And especially when you come from a background what I choose, I can only thank myself. It was my choice. It was I alone who chose that path. And I have to stand for it. I do 100% completely. But it has so many consequences later, because the economy is like, I have what do you call it in the banks? I cannot get lones, because I have payments remarks.
It's your credits, right? Your credit rating is, it's questionable, I guess, in their eyes.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And the rent, or what we call it, the interest is
interest. Yeah.
So even if to get a rent, to find an apartment in the market is difficult, because many people use firms who select people who can pay the rent, and again the payment remarks. If you have that, they don't want you. Okay, you're a nice person, we like you, you have a job, 100%, yes, it's good, but you see the end, you have remarks on the payment, so you cannot get the apartment. So it's
because that becomes your track record, right? And they judge you as an individual based on that track record.
And it's to this day, even my salary now, I get they take a lot of money from my salaries, So I work. I had both 1, 2, 3 jobs, man. I worked. I had to quit 2 of them. I had to just concentrate on the one job because of the health perspective. Also, I will get burned out if I don't take care of myself. I was going from one work to another work, double shifts. I was going the weekends. I was doing I was like a crazy pace, like this. And I just felt this pace can kill me if I don't slow down.
And so this shows that there's consequences that resonate through time, even though you've left your affiliation with the gangs and you've chosen the straight path, if we can just describe it like that. there are
Yeah.
still repercussions. You're still paying for those choices that you made. But as you said,
Still paying.
you take the ownership and responsibility for those choices you've made. And these are the consequences that you need to live up to, I guess. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, correct, 100% correct, and that is just the economy. If you think about the consequences from the health perspective, that's even worse. You know, it's I consider myself lucky that I'm not so damaged. But using drugs so many times, you know, that it takes a hold on your teeth. So you have to because the amalgam in the teeth they get dry, and the drugs it's like the acids take the fucking teeth away.
Yeah. They eat away the enamel.
So the bills are going to the roof, and I don't afford to go to the fucking dentist. Normal people regularly don't afford to go to the dentist here in Norway, you know. So it's like an extra cost you have to minimize. Okay, what can I do? So what I sit, and I'm not complaining. It's a difference there. I'm not I'm not the victim here. I'm not complaining. But it's the real life. The why I'm telling this is the consequences of this life. So you more early you drop out of this life, or don't even get into this life. You will be off, or better, I don't know, better fighting chance, better. Well, you don't create more obstacles for yourself. Let me put it that way. So health-wise, it's also sometimes I can get. I seem very outgoing, but some days are tougher than others. You know, everybody have a shitty days in life, no matter what. But some days, I must admit, I'm feeling like I don't want to go out with to people. I want to stay more home. I can get a little bit anxious, and I truly believe this is the damage from that formal life. Yeah.
This podcast has a wide spectrum of listeners. I was wondering, what advice would you give to someone who may be currently involved in a gang and who wants to leave?
So I don't have the correct answer for any of this. I have my experience, and of my experience, it's not revolution. I don't have a magic wand, you know,
No.
So I just have to think about it, because it's from some people asked me this question before, and then maybe I answered too quickly, you know, because I thought it was the right answer. But the more I've worked with kids, because it's all very individual, also from where you're from. So all I can say to that question here and now is that life, or I don't want to even call it a life. That is not a life, as I see it. You might feel like you're in some kind of family brotherhood or connection, but that kind of road, it only leads to destruction. It only leads to fucking hell, man. That is you hurt the people who loves you. The sooner you can get out of that fucking life. And I know it's hard, you know. I know it's difficult. It's very difficult. But
a lot of what you've spoken to so far are some of the signals. To listen to the signals, see the signals, look for the signs, because those signs will, over time, as you said, it's not one little thing or one big thing. It's a number of things that you can start seeing the pattern that, okay, the signs are pointing this way. As hard as it is, I start seeing all these things that go against what I thought this was, what I believed this was. You know, what I thought was deep was actually superficial. What I actually think is real is unreal. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that is absolutely correct. I talk to different kids alone, you know, sometimes in groups, but mostly. And if you don't have a motivation, or I feel for somebody to want to leave, because of course it feels like exciting to start with. You feel like you belong somewhere, maybe. You get some benefits also. So you have a little bit fast money, everything like that. Yeah, this is great in the beginning, but as further you get into it, you will fucking realize that this is the path to destruction.
Something profound you said, you know, when you continued down the trail, even though you'd had certain signals to get off the trail, you said, I didn't have a why.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And so when you work with kids now, teenagers, young men, or young girls, maybe young women in the game, Is that part of what you do, is to try to help them find the why to get off the trail?
Yeah, absolutely. They have to have the why. Why should I leave? Why should I quit making this money? What is it in for me to quit this? And it's difficult because some of them are so young. You know, they're like in the first phase of just getting the benefits almost. You know, if I can say it like that. But the more you go into this life, you more shit you will experience. You more you will see that it's not true, it's false, it's constant. It will affect you in every fucking way, bad, negatively. And my experience is some of the kids who wake up in sort of kind of way, they have an experience, a bad experience, like I don't know, like a fucking you experience like
something that scares you straight.
Something that scares you, yeah, correct. Something a death life experience almost. That gives you fucking motivation, a wake up call. Okay, shit, this is not what this was scary. This is an experience, and then they have this motivation there and then to maybe. You can work with. Okay, you experience that, and you can work with that experience.
Yeah, you see that thread, and you can start pulling on that thread, correct. And hopefully it leads to something more tangible, something more.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I must be honest with you because I've been working a lot of years now, like also in public, and I've been speaking loud about this. You know, we need some programs to get people out of this. The people who want to leave these gangs, we need some programs they can contact and they can get support. They have to do the work themselves, but they can get more support, hands-on. That's the reason I also do this podcast. I do different media appearances because I want to listen, tell the people and show them there are possibilities to come out of this life, and it's worth it. That is the most important thing. Don't forget about this. I tell a lot about the negatives here, and in the true stories, but till this day, I still wake up every fucking morning and I think to myself, at least a little short moment, oh, I'm so thankful. I'm so glad I'm not in this environment anymore. I'm not in the fourth or fifth day of drug addict use. I don't hurt people. You know, I don't have people hunting me with guns anymore, want to kill me. And the scary part is also because the environment has evolved. Because before in the 1890s, you know, we in the gangs here in Norway, we had codes also amongst ourselves. Like, okay, you are in a gang, I'm in a gang. But it doesn't mean I go and touch your brother or sister or your family who is not in this gang, you know? Because if you owe money to me and you disappear, I didn't go home to your family or your brother or sister and demand that money in the old days. But that shit has gone through the roof. Because if you owe money to these environments now and you disappear, people will come home to you and your family, and threaten them and kidnap your brother, kidnap your sister, who has nothing to do with this fucking gangs or the criminal life, and they will hold them as ransom. They will threaten them in different ways, and it's fucked up, man.
Yeah, so I mean, as you said, it's a completely different ecosystem than it was back in the 80s and 90s, and this ecosystem is just even more wild or more chaotic with no rules or no conduct. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's off limits.
Let me ask you, what support do you think is necessary for someone who needs to leave the gang and sort of start a new life? I mean, from what I gather from yourself, there were some of these serendipitous sort of chances that came up that kind of signaled to you. But then you said you worked with this one psychologist, this woman who did not label you, who did not diagnose you. And I have a huge respect for this woman. But through the talk therapy, why did that help you? Why did the talking, the expressing of your thoughts and emotions around the destructiveness and everything else, how did that help you?
Yeah, good question. It's good you mentioned this because I forget about this. It was what she did to help me. It was when I got this relation with her, I can trust her. You know, I felt that. then I felt more open that I can talk about her, about different things, from the regular life to different episodes. You know, she combined in the therapy with me. She also combined in theory. She explained to me about fight, flight, freeze, tolerance window. She explained it and drew it up for me, and it makes sense for me. And I went like, "Fuck yeah, that's true." You know, it was like it was like because I was asking her, "Am I fucked up? Am I crazy? What is wrong with me?" Because I didn't, and she told me like from the childhood about role models and like consistency of grown up being there, guidance. We talked about a lot of these things, and also when I was ready for it, she told me like, I remember one session I went in there and and she was like, "Hi Michael, how are you today?" And I said, "I'm fine." And she, "Oh, yeah, I see you smiling." It's like, "Yeah, I'm smiling, I'm good." And she told me, "Yeah." So, and I told her, "Oh, I'm happy today." So, okay. And then she told me, "Okay, so you say you're happy, Michael, but where in your body do you feel you're happy?" So she wanted me to connect with the body, you know, and that was completely new for me because I was like, I didn't want to feel so much, you know, and I could not replace, I could not, I was disconnected also with my body. So I have to, I said jokingly, I said like funny to her, I said, "Yeah, I feel it in my toes, you know, I'm happy there."
Okay.
And she goes, "Okay, I hear what you're saying, but
Yeah.
so yeah, so but it demanded because I had so trust in her.
Yeah.
So I had the guts to sit down and actually start feeling, or try to feel. Okay, where do I feel the connection? Where do I feel in the body where I'm happy? You understand? So we worked a lot about this connection. Where do I feel? Where do I notice it? So I had to like experience my body all over again, and she gave me just like good advice, and we talked, and she also went to this personal point that I asked her that, for example, how do you manage different situation in life? For example, when how do you? I told her one example is I got, and still to this day I get in email, I get in SMS, I get in the post like, letters from the different payment. What do you call it in Casso? Like
yeah, they're coming after you. They want the
they're
money.
coming after me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is in the weekends. It ticks in the phone. It fucking never stops. You know, it's all the day. You get feeded by this reminder every day. And some days, my tolerance window is bigger. I can tolerate more, and I don't take impulsive actions to it. But other days, you know, we are all human beings. You know, we have different moods, and at some point I get enough, you know, and I feel like today it's the perfect storm. Today so I asked her, "How do you handle it? How do you master this?" Because every human being has different challenges, you know. So it was different questions like that I asked her, and she was honest like a human being to another. She forget about the psychology perspective, but she was like telling me, "Well, this is. I also get angry, Michael. I also get scared and concerned about the future." She was sharing her own thoughts and just like a fucking human being talking to me.
She was vulnerable. She spoke to her vulnerabilities too,
correct.
Right?
Yeah, and that helped me having these discussions with her, so I could I could also hear that other people are going through their things also. It's a reminder for me, you're not alone. Because it feels so fucking alone in this fight. I've been fighting so many years, you know. And so when I talk to other people also now who I have contact with, who have left some environments, different places, it's not but it's in a selfish way, but in a good way. It feels good to also have, for example, this one guy who has a different story than me, but I can relate to him in different ways. He was not in a gang, but he did criminal things. He did different things. And when he shares some of his things, and he can share some of the things he went through and how he managed them in the daily life, I can steal from him, okay. It feels also good to feel that you're not alone, and that is a good feeling, So it helps sometimes to just not to dive into all this gang shit with other gang members who have been there, and we talk about this history, but we can share. Okay, brother, how are you coping this? How are you solving this? So I've been very interesting from as for you now in this conversation, your perspective. I'm very interested to hearing what you think about this sort of things, and yeah. So I asked the question back to you. Listen, what you think about it's a perspective.
Oh, I think this is the very important part, because this is where I see, the man who sits in front of me, I wouldn't have guessed all of this. We're just two guys sitting here talking to each other. But then I hear your history, and it's hard for me to actually see the guy here being that guy you described. And so back to the psychologist and what she helped you with, she was able to give you structure through diagrams, through visualizations, talking about the fight flight, the F3 response. She pictured out, she diagrammed out for you sort of tolerance windows. Yeah. And so this allowed you to saying, okay, this is what's going on to me. This is not some sort of special, but this is how it's mapped. And this is what the brain's doing. This is how I can deal with it. The other thing is, through your life, you've been trying to deaden your emotions just to push it down. But what she encouraged you was to talk about, to express. And when you had to reach down into your body and sort of connect toes and everything else, part of this is what we call embodied cognition. It's trying to link back the psychology and physiology, right? And to understand that, because that goes a long way to processing emotions. Like I tell a lot of my clients, there's no good or bad emotions. Emotions are on a spectrum. And each of these emotions are different chemical signals that are communicating something to us, whether it's success or exuberance or epiphany, as you've said, to this destructive, to this hollowness, to this deadening, to the abyss. I mean, it's all of these emotions, but they all communicate something. And so this psychologist, I'd like to meet her one day, but anyways, but huge respect. But what she's done, she allowed you to connect your physiology with your psychology. And then this becomes a map, a cognitive map for yourself to learn more and more from it. Also, when she expressed her vulnerability to you, Mikael, that she too has her bad days, that she too has a tolerance window that's sometimes really small, right? And she reacts the way she does. What this does is also normalize it for you, that even this psychologist with all her training, her PhD, blah, 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 she is still fallible. She still falls into that pitfall that you and I fall into. And so this normalization, this ability to talk and relate to your emotions, to process, but she also created a safe environment in which you can express. And she, I think, to some degree, taught you that vulnerability. As tough as you were, man, as a soldier, as a gangbanger, as an enforcer, as whatever, that vulnerability is where real strength lies, in expressing that and understanding that, okay, I am fallible. I need to fix this. I need to understand what the hell these emotions are telling me, good or bad. But I think what she also taught you was that it's normal to feel frustrated. It's normal to feel that you're at the end of your tether, at the end of your string, right? But that's completely normal. But the question is, what do you choose to do at that crossroads, Mikael? Do you choose to feed the frustration and lose yourself down the rabbit hole? Or do you wish to learn from that frustration, or whatever, the concern, the anxiety, the stress, the happiness, whatever? So, I mean, I've just parsed a little bit, but there's a lot there that she helped you. And then what I hear you doing is taking that knowledge in the way that you do and teaching it to the youth and to young men and young women who are on this troubled road. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, very good set. And what you also did was I because the situation I was in, or the person I was at that time, people didn't they were afraid of me. They didn't give me feedback. I didn't realize how I was perceived by them.
Perceived by them.
Perceived by them. Yeah. So one incident I remember was my younger brother. I went crazy, I was not hitting him, I was not, but violence come in different degrees. You have like physical, yeah.
Well
so,
said.
but so I didn't see how my body language was to him before he gave me a feedback, and because this is a guy I love, he is important for me. So when he gave me that feedback when I was in my little tolerance with him after, and he said, "Listen, you scared the shit out of me. You scared your mom," And then I said, "Shit, I didn't perceive myself like that. I didn't see myself like that. I had a different." But he said, "Listen, you were a big size. Your body language, your eyes were black, and then that feedback gave me. That was the first time somebody had the balls, or to tell me, And that's what the psychologist also did. I told her, I need that kind of feedback. I trust you. Yes, I can. If you give me a direct feedback, I will maybe be a little bit. I have to think about it, but she did it. I trusted her so much that sometimes she will give me direct feedback, like, "What are you doing?" She was really like a big sister almost, like telling me like, "This is wrong." Yeah, she was really giving it to me, and I was like, I felt like a little child, but I was stubborn, and but I had trust in her. So I needed maybe one day or one couple of hours after a session to reflect about it and think about. I know this woman wants me only good. So what was she saying? What was kind of feedback was she giving me? And when I have sourced it out in my head and all the different emotions and things like that, and I could see it. Okay, shit, she was right. She's right, and I had to like. So I needed this feedback also. That is very important to me, to people I trust, and especially with her background, to give me these feedbacks also.
And time again, from I see the fundamentals that you speak of that have given you stability, Mikael.
Yeah.
When you came back to pizza, you worked in a professional environment per se, where there was roles and responsibilities. There was a sense of certainty. You were given responsibility in the sense of you had to be you had a certain degree of autonomy and control of what you had to do and deliver it. And if you delivered, you got feedback. Good job, Mikael. If you didn't, he came down hard on you, but it gave you feedback. But again, it was someone you respected. In the military, also, I mean, it's a very structured way.
Yeah.
It creates certainty. As you said, you had the discipline to clean your weapon, to practice with your weapon, to exercise, to run, or the whole aspect of military. But again, and then even in the psychologist's room, when you were meeting here and you sat down, again, even though they are very distinct and different environments, there is a common denominator for each of those. And it sounds like this is the same thing that you bring probably as a father to your two children, probably as a counselor or an advisor to these two young people who are on that sort of questionable road. Mikael, I very much appreciate your time. I'm very respectful of your time. Is there anything else? Is there any last advice, any last words of wisdom from experience or the knowledge you've picked up along your long and difficult road, but you're on top of it now, that you could share or would like to share?
Well, what comes to my mind now is because, like I tell you, some days are fucking tough now still. So what I do is, when you're having a tough day or a tough moments or whatever, take one day at a time. That's what I do now. I really do it sometimes myself. I take one day at a time, and I do the best ability to this day to make sure that today I'm present and I do the right choices through the whole day. and that will make a fundamental also consequences good for me the next day. So I just keep on doing that every fucking day, single day, and in the long run, it makes also good consequences for me still, and I evolve a lot about it. That's what comes to my mind now. It's like take one day at a time when it's really tough,
One day at a time. Solid advice. Well, Mikael Ali, Mikael, thank you very much for your generosity, your time, your vulnerability, and sharing your long road. And what really heartened me was thinking about your boy crawling into that basement room when you were on that phone with that guy disrespecting you. It sounded like to some degree it was the redemption. It was the weight that helped you to decide, I'm going on this side of the fence and not on this side of the fence.
For sure. Thank you for having me as a guest.
Thank you, Mikael. I really appreciate it. You take care of yourself.
You too.
Well, folks, that was Mikael Ali, father of 2 young kids, an advisor, a counselor, to help kids to keep on the straight and narrow. There are a lot of things that I learned from my discussion with Mikael. And what really hit home was the idea of inclusion, diversity, and equality, and taking care of each other, creating psychological safe environments, whether that be in the office, the school, the playground, what have you. Because we can see what it can do to an individual when you strip all that away. But I'm glad this story ended in a better place than where it began. And so, Mikael, a big thank you again for your time and your generosity of sharing your story with us. And if any of you are interested in getting in touch with Mikael for a talk or for help or advice, well, I'll leave all his contact information in the show notes. Well, here we are at the end of another episode. As usual, if you could rate, subscribe, and review this episode and podcast, I'd really appreciate it. And if you get the chance, share it with 2 friends, 2 family members, 2 colleagues. You'd be doing me a huge solid. Well, thanks for joining me for another episode. Until next week, keep well, keep strong, and we'll speak soon.